Well, our topic this week is an interesting one. This will get some buzz going out there, won't it? Our topic this week is about appropriate goals for language instruction. What would be appropriate goals? I thought this might be a good topic because we just don't talk about goals that much in the language teaching profession. And if we're honest, I think if we're actually honest with ourselves, most of us in the language teaching profession do not set concrete, testable, and observable goals. I mean, we say vague things like, I want my students to communicate. I want my students to be fluent and so on. But what does that really mean? Most language teaching goals that I observe when I go out and look at programs basically involve, the only goal is covering the textbook. For example, at a lot of high school, secondary, and college, just my goal is to get through chapters 1 through 5 of this semester or this year or whatever. Or a goal might be, I got to get to the past tense this year. Those are the kind of goals I hear people say out there, right? But in terms of contemporary communicative and proficiency-oriented instruction, I think goals need to be defined a different way. We need to actually make goals that are related, actually expressed in terms of some kind of communication or some kind of language use during interaction, for example. And again, remember, my definition of communication is broad. It doesn't just mean the student speaking this. A goal could be interpretation or comprehension, but a goal involving somehow the nature of communication. And I mean, why do we need testable goals anyway? I mean, why would we even bring this up? Why is it important? That's not a rhetorical question.
It's not. See, I think it's the first thing you should know is what your goal is for your lesson, what your goal is for your classroom, what your goal is for that day.
Right. And we need those goals. We need to be testable because we have to be accountable for ourselves, right?
Right.
I mean, this is, think about so many things. I mean, not to get into national news, a lot of people are upset because they don't see the fruits of their efforts in something, right? They go, why am I dumping all this money in something? Why am I doing all this? Where is it going? And I think for us, it's not enough anymore to tell parents and administrators and our deans and the public, in the 2 years of Spanish or French, we cover these many tenses. That's not, I don't think that's it anymore. We need to be able to say that when your son or daughter gets out of this program, this is what we expect of them in terms of these abilities with language. I think that's really where it's at. And so we need to kind of push that, I think. And so that's why I wanted this topic today. And I will say off the bat, because actually Carol sent in a question from the lookalikes to put that fishing line out and see what people, he throws that thing out and see what people says. And Carol actually wrote in and says, how do literacy and age of learner impact goals? Can we have the same expectations for all ages, personalities, and literacy levels? And Carol must have been reading my mind when she wrote that, because I actually had in my notes to talk today just to say briefly that there is no one-size-fits-all for goals. Goals have to be institutional and context dependent. They do. And by context, and you know how I define context, right? Participants and setting. So whoever the participants are, whether the setting are, goals have to be appropriate for that particular context and setting. So some places might meet 4 days a week or 5 days a week. Some places only 3 days a week. Some days in an elementary program, it might be 1 day a week. And so you have to set goals that are appropriate for the context, which includes age, participants, and so on. Now, here at MSU, we set a goal in our Spanish language program and also in our French program for the first 2 years that 50% of our students getting out of the French or Spanish language program will be at the intermediate mid-level of speaking proficiency, which is a really high goal to set. But we did it anyway because we want to have something to aspire to. And thank heavens for the people at CELTA who got that proficiency grant, that we've been able to actually test that and found that we're not meeting our goal, which means that we either have to adjust our curriculum or maybe the goal really is too ambitious and we might have to change the goal. But at least we have a goal we're aiming for and we can test it through some means. Now, that's our goal. That's context-specific to MSU. Somebody else might have a different goal. So anyway, we'd like to hear your thoughts on that. All right, I'm going to give you the SLA challenge question right now. So I'm going to give you the question, and then you can tell me the answer if you call in. It's a very easy question. You can answer it without even looking anything up. It's one of those Jeopardy categories. What's that Jeopardy category where the answer to the question is actually in the answer? What does the term end state refer to in second language acquisition? Okay? Once more, what does the term end state, END, STATE.
Is there a space in between the two words?
End state, referred to in second language acquisition.
If a teacher's using a textbook in a classroom, presumably the textbook has objectives in mind, correct? I mean, they're built around specific objectives.
Not in my experience. not in world language teaching in the United States. They don't. They're all the goal. The objectives are all language objectives, like learn the present tense, learn the past tense, learn the reflexive verbs, learn the family vocabulary, learn blah blah blah.
And they're all couched in some
They
kind of
pretend.
topic.
They pretend to have objectives, like communicative objectives and perfect. But what's happened in the history of textbook publishing in the United States, at least, is that the old grammatical syllabus and vocabulary groups, when the communicative revolution happened in the 70s and the proficiency revolution happened in the 80s, they just layered that terminology over the existing textbooks. But textbooks really haven't changed that much in 30 or 40 years. They're underlyingly pretty much the same for Spanish, French, German, Russian. And I know people will call and disagree with me, but it's actually, I actually wrote about this back in 1998 in an article, and I said that a lot of textbooks, it's like buying detergents in the supermarket. Did I talk about this last week? Or did maybe I talked about this in Colorado. I'm having a deja vu experience here. Not an Alice moment, Walter. A deja vu experience. But looking at textbooks is often like buying detergents in a supermarket. You go in, and you go in the supermarket, and there's this big, long aisle of detergents, right? And you got Tide, and you got Gain, and you got Arm & Hammer, and you got this and that, blah, blah, blah. And each one of those is like 3 or 4 different kinds inside. And then when you actually turn the labels around and look at them, they're basically all the same. They all have the same surface surfactants for cleaning. And so what the difference between the 4 bottles of Tide is, one is HE, one's not HE. One has oxy power in it, one doesn't have oxy power in it. Some are perfume free and blah, blah, but they all do this. They all clean clothes in exactly the same way. And then you go from the Tide to the
scandal.
Gain. And
I can't believe it.
And you turn the label around on a different product, a different company, and you look and, that ingredient's the same one as the one in Tide. And so textbooks are like that too. The essence of textbooks, at least in world language publishing, they tend to really be the same. The essences are the same. And you got a lot of superficial differences, in my opinion. So, and somebody can call in and yell at me and say that's not true, and I'll argue with them. But So anyway, Dustin, to get back to your original question, I don't think the objectives, communicative objectives or proficiency objectives, are really part of most contemporary textbooks in secondary and college markets right now.
Okay. I mean, they are going for a one-size-fits-all approach, right? Which isn't necessarily what we want.
Yeah, I mean they do, because it's a big business, and businesses are run in certain ways, and so that's what happens. And that I'm not faulting textbook companies. I mean. It's all about the consumer. So what does the consumer want is what the commercial publisher produces. So
I've got a question here for you. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's a long one, but I think it's a good one. So
okay. Uh-oh.
I'll read part of it, and maybe you can answer a little bit, and then I'll read a little more. So
okay, that's enough, Walter. Thank you. No, just kidding.
All right, I'm done. Keeping silent.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is from Jim. And I don't know where Jim is from because it doesn't say here, but Jim says, I help adult professionals achieve their ESL goals. My questions, are my clients' educational and language goals reasonable or appropriate? Can their goals be aligned with my instruction? And so here's the situation. He says, my clients, mostly intermediate, come to me with specific language needs. Many would like to feel confident and proficient in handling stressful business situations in English. For example, giving presentations to board of directors, chairing meetings with suppliers, recommending new financial strategies for their companies, interviewing for a promotion, etc. Most have open minds in terms of the time needed in order to reach their objectives, but some expect to be able to negotiate a multi-million-dollar corporate merger in 30 days in English. No pressure on me, of course, he says. And then he says, other clients have specific proficiency goals in mind. Several are considering grad school in the U.S. They explain the programs that they're interested in require an 80 or higher on the TOEFL. Clients want to know how they can achieve that high of a TOEFL score. For them, proficiency is more than a can-do statement. Proficiency has a number attached to it. The PhD program they want to be admitted to has been a dream for years. However, the current TOEFL score is 60 and is making them depressed. So in all cases, I suggest lots of reading, listening, and conversation that are in line with their professional ambitions. How can I help them manage their expectations in order to get the high levels of proficiency that they want? Most of my clients are impatient, and they want to know how much time they need 20 hours, 200 hours, 2,000 hours? So his final question here is, what are appropriate goals for language instruction? Just what does it mean to have proficiency or communicative goals? How to input tasks and all other things we talk about fit into goal setting? Long question.
No kidding. No kidding.
Lots of information there.
No kidding. That's like, Walter, why don't you just streamline these questions? And poor Jim has got a lot in there. Jim, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer that for you because that's a really big question.
But I think I guess the idea that he's really looking for is it possible to take your goals and say my goals are specific to each individual student and what their needs are?
Well, you can't do that with that. I mean, I'm assuming it sounds like from that email that there's all those different goals in one class. Is that what I'm reading? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not sure of the situation actually, but
because if you have different classes, different goals, that's different. But if you have a bunch of different goals with people wanting different things out of the same class, that's a problem. And then you wind up, particularly at those upper levels like that, you wind up people having very personal goals, in which case what they should be doing is shadowing people who can do those things because they need to know how that's done. And that's a really, I don't think, Jim, that's solvable. If you've got, again, if goals for a course have to be goals for a course, that means everybody is pursuing the same goal. But if you've got a bunch of different goals in a course, that means you have a bunch of different courses going on at the same time. And I don't see how that's manageable. So, and I don't know what to tell them about number of hours. I mean, you can't tell people how many hours it's going to take to become fluent at doing something or good at doing something because there's a lot of individual variation too. And a lot of those things, for example, like negotiating a multi-million-dollar contract or a business deal, that takes a certain amount of skill and ability with language is going to go way beyond what most of us normally deal with. So I'm at a loss to answer that one because I think there's just too much going on in that classroom or too much going on with that question. Give me an easier one. My gosh. Oh, we'll take a call.
We've got a caller.
Well, let me take a call then. I'm going to come back to Jim in a minute. Let me think about that. Sometimes things percolate in the background. But so we got Karen. Oh, we got Karen on the line calling from Portland.
Hello.
Karen, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Are you part of the group that's eating lunch?
I'm the presenter.
Oh, my gosh. I'm going to repeat it for the audience, and then you can shoot us your answer. Here it goes. What does the term end state refer to in second language acquisition? Take it away, Karen.
What is the term end state? But we have time, right?
Say what?
You have time. I mean, I'm outside of the room. So you ask the question again, and we'll get someone from the room to call back.
Oh, okay. I just did.
Ask the question again.
I did. Okay, I'll do it again. What does the term end state refer to in second language acquisition?
What does end state refer to in second language acquisition? Okay. All right. Wait. Come.
I'm confused.
Not Penn State, end state.
He doesn't know. He said how good you are at the end. Oh, he said how Dr. Krashen says how good you are at the end. But I really am going to put this off to the people who are in the conference and have them call back in.
Okay, sounds great. We'll wait for somebody to call back in.
And I'm passing you to Carol. Thanks for letting us call in. We are all listening, so say good stuff.
Well, great. So somebody call in and win a prize. All right.
All right. Here's
Okay.
Carol.
Okay. Oh, Carol's on. My gosh.
Hi.
Somebody has those little Santa wipes to be wiping this phone down. You're passing. Who knows how many germs are spreading around on that phone right now?
Well, we were going to spread that phone to about 150 different people, and so I'm third on the list.
Oh, my God. Gosh, well, then you only got 2 sets of germs in front of you. How you doing, Carol?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, we're great. We're peachy. We're middle of, well, not in the middle. We just started fall, basically, this week, so beautiful weather. I love fall. Too bad it's called fall. It sounds awful, like you're going to trip walking down the street or something, right?
Really? It sounds kind of negative, doesn't it?
I know. We should
Why
just
don't they call it up?
Yeah, we should call it up. Yeah, I like that. It's up. Okay, we're having a great up this week. We just started, so. All right, Carol, what's on your mind, Carol? What do you want to talk about?
Well, so I was told via Twitter that I had a call-in worthy question, so I'll repeat the question that I posed to you on Twitter, and that is, do you agree with the actual proficiency guidelines, and if yes, at what point can we expect language learners to achieve them?
Do
after a certain number of hours, after a certain what? At what point can they achieve each level of those guidelines?
Do I agree with the guidelines? I'm not sure what you mean by agree, but are the guidelines useful, and do they allow us a metric?
Do you think they're accurate? Do you think that they can actually predict or are actual predictors of someone's communicative competence?
No. That's why they're called proficiency. Because communication, remember, is always context specific, and that's why the guidelines are structured the way they are. The proficiency guidelines are the way they are, because they're meant to be non-context specific. And the only contextual thing they mention is, one, an interview situation, and two, whether or not you're dealing with a sympathetic native speaker or not. Those are the only contextual things they give. So they're not actual metrics of communication per se. They are metrics of proficiency, and as such, I think that they're fine. I mean that way, because as long as you understand the difference between, you have to understand that communication is a little more fluid than proficiency, right? Okay, so if you understand that, then they're fine, and you can work with them, and we work with them here. Okay, so they're. And the way we work with them is not in the strictest sense. We don't even use, for example, an oral proficiency interview to test our students. We have our can-do statements, and we have our range of things that we feel comfortable in saying what they can do, and then we call it a day with that, okay, because we take the spirit of the guidelines for what we're doing here.
So give me an example of something someone can or should be able to do.
Because we do them through our can-do statements, for example. So, for example, for the immediate level, we have something like, I should be able to say when I get up, when I go to bed, and 3 things I do every day that's different from what I do on the weekend.
Okay. After how many hours of exposure should they be able to do that?
Well, you can test at any time. In fact, we test it early on, but that doesn't mean it can't be tested again, because when you test it, you may not get the same level of fluency. And by fluency, I mean speed or ability to do it. So you might be rougher with it at the beginning. When we do it like in the first 4 or 5 weeks. After lots of input on those kinds of topics, and then, but then again, it can be recycled in later, because you get better and better as you progress, through your experience, right? So I don't see necessarily those kinds of things as a one-shot deal, and we always look at, again, remember, proficiency is not always about how fast you can do something, or necessarily even how well you can do it, until you get to the upper levels. And I don't deal with the upper levels of proficiency. And so for us, as long as you can do it, then you're meeting our goals. Does that make sense? We're not talking here about how well you do it, how fast you do it. Just can you do it? Because we know that if you just can do it, you will get better with it later on as you get more exposure to language.
Well, I guess that's my point, really, is that we have students in level 2, and after level 2, we make a blanket statement that everyone should be able to do this, when the truth is that not everyone will be able to do it, but it doesn't mean that they don't have some level of proficiency.
Well, that's why we don't state our goals as everybody. We state our goals in terms of a percentage. And so we say, for example, 50% of our population will be able to do X, knowing that some will be above and some will be below. And now we realize that 50% might be too high. Maybe we might need to drop it down to 33%. Okay, so you have to allow for individual variations. Again, some people will be better, some people will be worse. But you have to have sort of a target for yourself, so you have a way to assess what you're doing as an instructor and what your curriculum is doing.
Okay.
And
thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, and having a percentage like that gives you that wiggle room. It says, yeah, I'm meeting it or I'm not meeting it. But, some people will fall short, and I expect that, because that's just the nature of language acquisition, right? But nobody gets penalized for not meeting it. That's just the goal we set for ourselves.
I will say, Carol, this is Walter speaking here. Actual has come out with a chart. It's called the Time as a Critical Component for Developing Language Performance. And so they do give kind of a guideline. It's clearly not a hard and fast truth, but as a guideline, so you can take a look at it. It's in some of their, I don't remember if it's in the proficiency guidelines or it's in some document that ACTFL has put out. So,
right. I've looked at those, and I do find them helpful. It's just one of those things that language acquisition seems to be so ambiguous that I'm finding it, the older I get, I think it's harder to measure. It's not getting any easier for me.
Right. I agree with you. And that's why when we set our goals, we don't measure directly whether they got to intermediate mid. We have our set of can-do statements that are spread out over the curriculum. And if they're able to do those over the course of the curriculum, we're satisfied with that because for precisely the reason you're saying. It can't be so hard and fast. But the idea is if you don't have some kind of goal, I'm trying to think of those teachers out there, Carol, who don't set goals at all. And so what are they doing? And what they wind up doing is flipping textbook pages. And so the more we can push people to even think about goal setting in some way or another, even if with experience they realize, well, that goal doesn't work for me, it's better to push them to be thinking about goals, at least communicative and proficiency-oriented goals, than to be thinking about covering tenses or covering textbook pages. And again,
right. Good point.
our experience here is we're doing it here. We're finding out that our goals aren't quite working, so we're starting to look at our curriculum again. So that's what it's all about. It's not about the students.
Right.
The students aren't getting penalized. We're using it to measure ourselves. So.
Right. Well, thank you. Thanks for confirming that you too changed your mind after you discovered your guidelines or your goals weren't quite accurate.
You have to do constant self-assessment. Every 3 or 4 years, you got to look at what you're doing and say, okay, I got to stop and assess it. Maybe even sooner than that. It just depends on how much time you have to assess. But yeah.
Hey, do you hear a little noise in the background?
I hear lots of noise in the background. What's going on?
I'm going to make everybody yell hi to you. These are the 150 people at the Cofalt Conference in Oregon. Hold on a minute.
Great. My God, it sounds like a football game. Are they doing the wave too or something?
Could you hear them? Yeah, they're doing the wave.
Yeah, it sounds like a football. It sounds like a football game, and they're all standing up doing the wave. That was great. Well, tell them hi back.
Yeah, because we're enthusiastic, and this is better than a football game.
Yeah.
Right, Mikey?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, how we doing?
Is that Mikey?
Hey, Mikey.
That's Mikey.
Make sure you guys send us some. Make sure you send us some photos. Send some pictures.
I'm sorry.
Make sure you send some photos or pictures. Tweet some photos and pictures to us right now.
Okay, we'll do that right now.
Okay. All right.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Thanks, Walter, everybody. Nice talking.
Okay.
Thanks for calling, Carol.
Make sure somebody comments in. We got like 2 more minutes. I got to get that SLA challenge question in.
All right.
Remind them. Okay. That was great. Oh my gosh, 150 people. That's just fun. They're all sitting there listening to us. It's like
that's fantastic.
I feel like I feel honored. They're in a conference. They're taking
I feel
time
nervous.
out.
I need to stop talking. I'm going to sound silly.
No, I mean they took time out of their busy conference to listen to us. I think that's great. It was really nice to hear Steve too. So Steve's so funny. My God, what did he say? He was on nitrous oxide.
Nitrous oxide, and he loved it.
All right. Okay. We've got a caller, I think, coming. Do we have a call coming in? Nope. Okay. I thought we did. Let's see. We've got Walter. Did you tweet that link?
I did.
Okay. So Walter tweeted that link to that ACFO reference, right?
I did indeed. Yep.
Okay. Good. So people who want to find out about those hours that he was mentioning, it's out there floating in the cybersphere somewhere. All right. So, good. We do have a caller. It looks like it came through. We have a caller on the line. Is this Dudu from Algeria? Hello? Hello, I'm not hearing anything.
Yes, I am.
Is this Dudu?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Hey, are you calling from Algeria?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. And it says that you were going to answer the SLA question.
Yes, I called before.
You did? Okay. All right, so you're ready for the question? I'm going to read the question again, and then you're going to give the answer,
Yes,
okay? So hold on. Okay, so here's the question. What does the term end state refer to in second language acquisition?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Sure.
I wasn't listening.
What does the term end state refer to in second language acquisition?
Well, it is the final grammar achieved by a learner.
The final grammar, say that again, the final grammar what? By the learner?
Achieved by the learner.
Yeah,
by
that's pretty good. Ding, 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 ding.
Wow.
That's a pretty good answer. Yes. End state refers to the final place, whatever you want to call it, grammar, linguistic system that the learner gets in a head. Or basically, you can just say how far a person gets an acquisition. Great. Well, that was great. So, Dudu, tell me what you do. Are you a language teacher?
Yeah, I am a language teacher, but I'm teaching part-time.
Oh, okay. And so now you're, what time?
I'm a student teacher also.
You're what?
I'm a student teacher. I'm teaching. I'm studying in a school for teachers, and I'm teaching part-time in
Okay.
my free time.
Well, good for you. So you're going to have a career. What language do you teach?
As English EFL.
Oh, okay. Well, they're not you. Well, good for you. Well, great. Well, make sure you stay on the line so that Jeff and our studio can get your address. We're going to send you a set of coasters in the mail for your use. Okay?
Thank you. That's good.
All right.
Nice.
Make sure.
Really
So
nice.
make sure you give your information to Jeff so we can get those in the mail to you. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Dudu.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks,
for calling,
Dudu.
Dudu. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Okay, Oregon just slipped up there. They waited too long. I guess I better give the diva question now, so maybe someone from Oregon can get the diva question. Okay. Should I give the diva question, Walter?
Go right ahead.
Destin, should I give that?
I'm waiting for it.
Because you are the wind beneath my wings.
It is October. Hocus Pocus time.
You are. Oh, it is a Hocus Pocus time. Oh my God, that's my favorite Halloween movie.
Have you watched it yet?
No,
This
I don't watch
season?
it. I watch it on Halloween. Day.
On Halloween, okay.
Of course I do. Watch it on Halloween. Except I have to take it with me to Minnesota because I'll be in Minnesota for Halloween. Okay, so here's the diva challenge question. What diva with a career that has spanned 5 decades was born with the name Anna Mae Bullock?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Huh.
Repeat. What diva with a career that has spanned 5 decades, almost like me, was born with the name Anna Mae Bullock? Call in with that answer and win a prize. All right, we're waiting for Oregon. Since they missed the SLA question, they're going to have to call in and answer that one. Okay, so what we got? We got something going on Mixler there, Dustin?
Well,
Or-
we still have Heidi's question out there. She looks like she can't call in,
Well, then why don't you...
so we can read it off, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead. Sounds good.
All right, so let me get back to her.
Why not?
post.
Why not? I'll just take a sip of my water here. I got that Las Vegas throat again.
And someone seconded her question, so it'd be great if we did tackle this one. What are some examples of meaningful, attainable goals for students when acquisition is the actual goal, and everyone is on a different continuum and acquiring at their own pace?
Oh, yeah. Well, we kind of sort of answered that earlier in a certain sense. What you do is you can set the same kinds of goals. For example, just like the little can-do statement I said earlier, one of the ones we use here, which is, I can say when I get up, when I go to bed, 3 things I do every day that's different than what I do on the weekends. And almost everybody, when we listen and we watch students do that in the class, for example, they're kind of all over the place on their ability to do that. Some are really slow, some are really good, some are more accurate than others. We don't care. If you can do it, that's great. And so the idea is to set things that you think they can do or they should be able to do, and then you work really hard to get them there. And then you just allow for the individual differences. I think the issue becomes one of grading or assessment in the sense of it's not so much, I think people worry too much about how well they can do it rather than just if they can do it. That's why we call them can-do statements. Can I do this? And so I think, Heidi, you can set things like can-do statements and goals that allow for a lot of variation in how they're actually done. Because you can't, again, with acquisition, you cannot grade for accuracy or individual differences. You have to let those things take their course. All right. Let's see here. Walter, you haven't told us about your reading this week.
I haven't, you're right, but it's actually really interesting that we just had a cameo from Dr. Stephen Krashen because he's who I'm going to talk about today. Last week I mentioned an article from Angelica and her colleagues here at Michigan State who published actually on this topic, on setting language goals. And I also, at the very end of that very same Foreign Language Annals, is a response, a comment on an article. The original article was published by Martina Linseth, The Availability of Conscious Knowledge. And Stephen Krashen has given a response to that. And so I recommend that you go and read Dr. Krashen's response and then Martina Linseth's response to Dr. Krashen. And I think it'll be an interesting read for you. So
And the original article, too.
Yeah, and the original. I'm not sure when it was originally published.
I think it was published in March 2015. No, 2016.
Yeah, it was this year, but yep. And so once again, that's in volume 49, number 3, fall 2016 of the Foreign Language Annals, put out by Actful. So an interesting read.
I think, Walter, that's an excellent choice. I'm going to tell you why. You know why I think you're a genius at picking that one?
Why am I a genius at picking that one?
Because it allows the reader. Sometimes readers they don't know. They think something gets published and it's a definitive thing. And here we have something that was published in March of 2016. And then Steve Krashen has a response to that saying, here's what I think about that. And then she engages some dialogue. And we actually get some back and forth on something so people can see how the thought process works.
Yeah.
And it just so happens I have one coming out in December as well. But I'll let
you have a response to it coming out?
We'll wait till the December show, and then you can say, hey, I just got my foreign language annals.
And so you have a response to this article, huh? All right, then. Wow.
All right. Oh, we got another caller. Tim. There's a guy named Tim. I wonder if it's short for Timothy.
It is
Tiny Tim? Is this Tim from Massachusetts?
It is. Hi.
Hey, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Timothy is your full name?
It is.
You know, people think I'm a William, but I'm actually a Bill. Just in case you want to know.
No William.
No William.
We sometimes call him Guillermo in Spanish.
So, my sister calls me that. Like, whatever. So Tim, how's life in Massachusetts?
I don't know how life in Michigan is, but life in Massachusetts is great.
Well, good. So what do you do there? Are you a teacher? Are you a student?
I am a department head.
Oh, wow.
K to 12, and I am president-elect of the Massachusetts Foreign Language Association.
Great. Wow.
I think we've read a question of yours before, have we not, Tim?
I think you did a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
There you go.
Well, great. So it says here on my screen in front of me that you're calling in because you have an answer to the diva question.
I do.
Oh, Tim, I love you. Let's see if you get it right. Okay, here we go.
I knew the answer right away.
You did? Okay, you and I must be the same age.
So it is, of course, Tina Turner.
Let me read the question again to remind people.
Oh,
What
I'm
diva with a career that has spanned 5 decades was born with the name Anna Mae Bullock? And the answer is, Tim?
Tina Turner.
What's
Ding, ding,
love
ding, ding,
got
ding.
to do? Yes, ding, 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 ding.
Wait,
There you go.
Keep singing.
Great, Tim. Why? You want to sing it?
No, I want you to keep singing.
What's love got to do? No, I can't sing that song.
Okay.
Actually, there's another song of hers I really like, but I won't say it on the air. Okay. Well, Tim, that was great. Thank you for calling in and giving us the correct answer. Everybody out there, you should know that some of us have fake names that we use as our stage names and our entertainment names and our radio names. And
like Whoopi Goldberg, she's something, I think her real name is like Karen Johnson or something, or Karen Jones or something like that.
Yeah, and Walter Hopkins is really not Walter Hopkins. So, did you know that, Dustin?
I didn't know that.
Tim, did you give Jeff your information on the phone before you?
I did, yes.
Good, so he's got it all. So we're going to send you a nice set of coasters. How's that?
That sounds excellent.
Perfect, and those will
can't
go
wait.
out to you in the next couple of days, and you enjoy those. Will we see you in Boston at Actful?
You will, yes.
Well, make sure you get there early. You know, we're doing Tea with BVP at 3 o'clock on Saturday.
All right.
So you get to the exhibit hall ahead of time. Make sure you come up and introduce yourself so we can say, hey, that's Tim from Massachusetts who called in, okay?
All right. I will definitely introduce myself. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Well, same here.
Likewise.
Okay.
Wait, Tim, don't leave yet. I think you sent in a question, and I think maybe you'd like to ask it, or I can ask it for you.
You know, I did send in a question, I think, but I cannot remember what it was because it was a few days ago.
Okay, well, I'll ask it for you then. How's
okay.
that, Tim? His question is, if I were to purchase a book for a department-wide read on communicative language teaching, what recommendations do you have?
Other than mine?
No, including yours. Anything.
Well, Jim Lee and I did the book, the definitive book. No, we did a book. Second edition came out in 2003. We have not done a follow-up. Called Making Communicative Language Teaching Happen. And then I've got my book with Actful coming out this spring. I'm not sure what the name of it's going to be, but the underlying title is Principles of Contemporary Language Teaching. And by contemporary language teaching, I mean communicative and proficiency-oriented language teaching. So that one's coming out. And then it just depends, because communicative... there are cultural nuances that. So there are people in the English speaking world who talk about communicative language teaching that talk about slightly differently. There's some common underlying things that we do, but but there are some culturally context-specific things. And I think you want is more of a U.S.-based perspective on things, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah, Sandy Savignon's work, Communicative Competence Theory in Classroom Practice, that's a classic as well. That was republished in 1998. I think it's still available. And off the top of my head, that's all I have right now.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it?
Okay, well, yeah, if you haven't written those down, shoot me an email again or remind me, and I'll put those in writing to you. Okay?
Oh, I was writing furiously. I've got everything down.
Well, you're department head. I'm sure you do
Yeah,
write furiously.
Right. I
All
have
right.
to be able to do that.
There you go. All right, Tim, well, thanks for calling in.
Thank you. Take care.
Talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, Tim. Bye-bye.
Boy, those poor Oregon people missed both the SLA challenge question and the Diva challenge question. That was okay, but I think we got somebody from Oregon calling here in a minute. But we want to go to Dustin's quote because Angelica's not here, so he's got to do the quote of the week.
I do. I've got
What
the
is
quote
your
here.
quote of the week, Dustin?
Well, it sort of intensifies Bill. There is only one rule for being a good talker: learn to listen. Christopher Morley.
Oh my gosh, say that again.
There is only one rule for being a good talker: learn to listen. And Bill, you do that at every show. You listen to our listeners.
Well, no, I think it's a good quote because that kind of dovetails with the whole idea of input and comprehension leads to acquisition. So if you want to learn a language to talk, you better be a good listener. Who did that again? Christopher Morley?
Christopher Morley.
Who's Christopher Morley? That name's ring a bell. That name rings a bell.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Somebody Google him.
Almost sounds...
I know who that is. Wasn't he a writer from the 17th? Oh, I have to figure it out. Oh, well. Let me take the next call. We got Louisa calling from Oregon. Louisa, are you on the line?
I sure am.
Hey, Louisa, how you doing?
I'm wonderful.
How's the
Thank
conference
you.
going? Did you finish your lunch?
Yes, no, I stepped out from lunch so that I could call you. Lunch is almost over, and then we're going to continue with Dr. Krashen.
Well, great. So what's on your mind,
But I have a
Lisa?
question.
What are you calling about?
I have a question because I'm helping teachers who are new to comprehensible input strategies figure out what can they expect from their students after 180 hours of language instruction or comprehensible input when we only get them for that amount of time during the first year.
So what? How many hours a week is that?
That's 1 hour a week for 180 hours for the year.
Well, something's not adding up to me because 1
Oh,
hour
no,
a
I'm
week
sorry. 5 hours a week because it's 1 hour a day.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
1 hour to 5 hours a week.
I know math
no.
is not my strong suit.
No. Because I was going like 52 weeks. 1 hour would be
They're in
52
class.
hours. Okay. So yeah, I got it. So there are 5 hours a week, and with you 1 hour a day. Okay.
Right.
And so you want to know how far they can get at the end of 1 year?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it just depends. I think that with really, really good, high quality input, interaction with that input, if it's compelling, if it's interesting, if the students are engaged, then you could probably get them to, in a situation like that, if that's all you're doing is comprehensible input and really working them with interaction with that input,
Yes.
I'm going to just stab. I'm going to say there's no reason you can't get them to at least intermediate. You could probably get them to intermediate low. I bet. Would be hard to get in
And
there.
that's the thing that teachers who are new to the comprehensible input method are struggling with because they don't really believe that. And so they don't know what does that look like? How do they test for that, right?
Yeah.
So we say use the quick write to find out how much they can put out, you know, for their showing what kind of language they have acquired. Do you have any other ideas on what we could use to test that proficiency?
Yeah, I think that actually I was talking to Eric about this on the phone recently because we need to, I know there's been some research done on this kind of stuff, but we need to do some, the problem with some of the research is that we need to have some neutral measures that don't bias toward a particular method. And so I think what you want to do is investigate some of the, for example, what I said earlier, like some of the can-do statements. Those would be great measures to see if they can do some of those. You take a handful of those and see if they can do those and which ones. Because, you know, you can't cover, it depends on what you're doing with CI and the approach you're taking in the classroom, what topics you cover over the course of a year, because all can-do statements and all tasks are also going to be topic relevant, right? Because you have to be able, You have to be able to have input about the kinds of things that you're going to talk about over the course of time.
True.
So,
True. But at least that would be a good start.
Yeah. So again, this is why I work backwards, because I do a lot of CI stuff in my class. It doesn't look like typical TPRS stuff because I'm driven by tasks. Here's where I want my students to be at a certain point. Then I work back from that task. So I build all my input interaction with the input around where I want them to be in 2 days or 4 days or 5 days on these little teeny tasks I have them do. So mine looks a little bit different. So as opposed to just launching into fact storytelling or doing those kinds of things, which is a great way to do it too, but then you wind up being a little more, you're contextually bound to the things that come up in those stories. And so, but even in my case, for example, I would want neutral tests of what I'm doing to see if it's working.
Exactly.
Because, So
exactly, that would be ideal. So we'll need to be working on that.
Yeah.
Finding some neutral.
Yeah. So I think some
tests.
simple can-do statements would work. If you want help with that, just we've got stuff on our website, on our syllabi and stuff. But Walter and I can shoot some ideas to you. We should probably just
That
put
would be
those together.
wonderful.
Maybe we can put those on the web. We'll talk to Luca. Maybe we can throw a few of those up there from the
your
Spanish
resource
language
page.
program. You can see what they look like. We'll just translate them. Actually, they're all are in English because they're in the syllabus because they're public documents. We didn't put them in Spanish. So so we can just cut and paste those and put those up. It'll take us like 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll go look for the Tea with BVP website in the next couple of days. We'll see if we can get them up by. Give us till Monday. See if we can get them up by Monday. Okay.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you
They'll
very
be in the
much
resource
for
site. They'll be in the resource site.
answering my question. Okay.
Sure.
Have a great day.
Okay, Louisa, thanks for calling and
Thanks
say hi
for
to everybody.
calling. Bye-bye.
Have fun the rest
I
of the conference.
will. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. That was a good question. Yeah, that's a tough one because, and she's right that a lot of people don't believe you can get things. When the demos I do and people realize after 1 hour what students can, they go, oh my God, they could do all that just from listening? Yeah, pretty much so. But they weren't just listening, they were interacting with me too. So, anyway. Okay.
Can I just do a follow-up on that question? Do you think?
Sure.
So, let's say that it wasn't, maybe someone new to using comprehensible input or I don't know. I mean, do you think it's realistic for someone for a regular classroom after 180 hours to get to intermediate low? Or do you think more likely that there would be a novice mid or a novice high?
I think intermediate low is possible, but again, you've got to do that percentage. Like 30% of my students will be in intermediate low, and a lot of them won't be because there's so much individual variation. But if you look at really good, high quality input in the classroom, the problem is that it's all about the devil's in the details, right? And so it's all about how you spend that hour in the input interaction with that input. How good is the input? How are the students maintaining interest in it? How are they interacting with the input? All of that stuff counts. So the devil is in the details. So it's not impossible. It's not impossible with a really good instructor who knows what he or she is doing with that input in the classroom and interacting with that input to push the students along really fast. I had a really fabulous Russian demo when I was in July in Chattanooga, and I could swear I'm sure I could be intermediate low.
If you had 180 hours?
If I had 5 days a week with her, an hour a day, that instructor.
That's actually the one of the things that I miss about teaching in the middle and high school is that you get that 5 days a week, hour, maybe not an hour long necessarily, but you get a much more regular interaction with your students and for a longer period of time. 'Cause, a lot of people have said that one semester of college level language is equal to 1 year of high school level language. But the reality is, when you think about that, they have 45 hours in one semester, 90 hours in 2 semesters. So they're really getting that 180 hours over 4 semesters. And we're expecting intermediate mid by the end of 4 semesters.
Right.
Whereas in high school, they get 1 year and they've already got that same number of hours.
Here's actually this is right on the topic that we just asked what we're talking about. Senor Ricardo wrote in on Twitter that for his Spanish 1 goals, his goals are stay in the target language, communicate, speaking, writing using novice mid-level language. Kids are already doing that in 1 month. So throughout that, he wants them at least be novice mid by the end of the first year, if not even sooner. So I think it's doable, and that's probably in his curriculum. So. All right. Oh, my God, look at the time. The
It's
little
already
clock
time.
is ticking. We have a reminder. Dustin, you want to read the reminder?
Sure. We have 2 days left to send in the Diva lip sync battle video. That's tomorrow, correct?
No, Friday.
Friday.
Today's the 13th.
Today's Thursday.
So
Isn't it
Saturday.
tomorrow? So Saturday is
Saturday.
the deadline.
Okay, yeah,
I
Saturday.
got confused in the beginning.
Saturday.
Because the 15th was the first day of our first broadcast ever, right?
Yeah.
Last year.
Saturday.
So it's our
Yeah.
1 year celebration.
So
coming up.
technically, this is almost our. We'll wait and have our big cake next week, next Thursday. How's that sound? All right.
Can we get it designed with like the T with BVP logo?
I'm going to have your face on it, Walter. Yeah. I'm going to take a picture of you and have them put your face
Put it
on
right
the
on there.
Yeah. Carol just sent me a tweet asking if I could run for president after all.
cake. Yeah, we're not going to go there. Okay.